The pre-Socratic Greek philosopher Heraclitus is famously known for his quote, "No man ever steps in the same river twice." But what will happen actually if I put this metaphor to the test? Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and today I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment. About 3 years ago, I did a tag video created by MacDonell called the In or Out tag. It was a fast little tag about what you're into and what you're not into when you're reading. And it's been up there, I said, for 3 years. And quite recently, this tag has been coming up again. People are doing the tag again or doing it for the first time. Now, I have not reviewed my answers to my first video, but I've decided I'm going to do this tag again. I'm going to put that old quote from Heraclitus, "No man ever steps in the same river twice," to the test. Heraclitus was talking about the man is different. The river is different each time the man steps in the river. So how different will my answers be on this video from my first video? As I said, I'm not going to rewatch my first video, so I will not spoil my answers. I think they will all be pretty much the same, but who knows? It was 3 years ago, and there's been a lot of influence on BookTube. So this tag asks us to consider several bookish features and classic tropes in literature and make a snap decision whether we are in with it, that is, we like it, or out with it, that is, we don't like it. There are 26 prompts. Prompt number 1, reading the last page first. I'm out. I really don't ever see a reason why a reader would need to read the last page first. Maybe some people just can't stand not knowing the answer to a mystery, or maybe they're just curious, but I am out. Prompt number 2, enemies to lovers. This is a very common romantic trope, I presume. I really don't read romance novels or romance stories, so I don't encounter this trope too much, but I do understand the principle, and I'm out. Now, am I out because of just the trope, or am I out on all romance tropes? I'm probably out on most romance tropes, but having an enemy become your lover just seems rather ho-hum to me. Number 3, dream sequences. I'm in, tentatively. Dream sequences are frequently used, and frequently used very poorly by weak or inadequate authors, but a good dream sequence can enhance a story, so technically I'm in. Number 4, love triangles, another romantic trope. And again, this is just a storyline that is for other readers. I'm not going to be too engaged deciding, oh, which boy am I going to choose? Or, oh, which girl am I going to choose from the narrator or main character of the story? I'm just out on love triangles. Number 5, cracked spines. Here is an example of a cracked spine, which is really rather serious. If you hold it up, you can see that the book is getting ready to split in two. I'm out on cracked spines. I still keep this book around because it's an oldie and a goodie, and I need to get around to reading it someday. So I'll have to put up with this cracked spine, even though I'm out on them in general. Number 6, back to my small town. In weekly, it would not be a favorite storyline of mine, but it can be okay. Number 7, monsters are regular people. Now here is a question about what is a monster. Are you talking about physical monsters, such as Frankenstein's creation in Mary Shelley's novel? Yes, that monster is a regular person. even though he is a monster. And his creator, Victor Frankenstein, is more of a monster morally than the creature. I'm in on monsters are regular people. Number 8, no paragraph breaks. I'm in. I actually think it's an intriguing way to write a novel. For this type of writing, I am most familiar with Thomas Bernhard, the Austrian writer, who was quite a curmudgeon and misanthrope, and all of his novels are written as one paragraph. Occasionally, you will have chapter breaks, or not quite chapter breaks, part breaks, but all of his novels, or at least his later novels, are written as one paragraph. I think Thomas Bernhard is a fascinating and interesting author, so I'm in on no paragraph breaks. Number 9, multi-generational sagas. I'm in. They can be so engrossing and entertaining. This is a huge series by John Jakes that takes America from its beginnings in the pre-revolutionary times and ends sometime after the Civil War. I admit that I have not read every book in this series, but I should someday because they're fantastic, and I'm in on multi-generational sagas. Number 10, rereading. I'm definitely in on rereading. Every time you reread a book, it is a new experience, or at least almost a new experience. You will discover insights and details, maybe just a little bit of character development that you missed the first time. And then there's those occasions when you reread a favorite book and you discover maybe that book wasn't as good upon rereading. For example, I will hold up A Void by Georges Perec, a novel translated from the French. This novel is a lipogram. That means it is written entirely without using the letter E, and that design, that rule means you just don't use words that have the letter E. You don't drop the letter E. But when I was 30 years old, I absolutely found this book utterly fascinating. I thought it was one of the best books that I had ever read. And then when I was in my late 50s, I reread it. And I'm going like, the writing was clever. But whatever my younger self saw in this book, my older self did not see again. So sometimes rereading is a fabulous experiment or experience, but sometimes it's just a disappointment. Number 11, artificial intelligence. I'm in. I think the original question was about books that feature artificially intelligent characters, like the ships in Ian M. Banks' Culture series. Those are fascinating AI characters. I don't think this is about AI, as of today, that's taking over the world or may take over the world. I'm definitely out on that kind of AI. Number 12, drop caps. This is an example of a drop cap. I will hold it up. You see the first letter is very large and goes over 3 lines. That is a drop cap. I'm in weekly. I think it's kind of neat, but it's really not absolutely necessary. So a week in. Prompt number 13, happy endings. Let me make this perfectly clear. I am out on happy endings. I really detest happy endings. In fact, out is insufficient to cover how much I dislike happy endings. I think bloody effing hell no on happy endings is more aligned with my true feelings. Number 14, plot points that only converge at the end. I guess I'm in. I kind of like it. But again, it's not really especially important to me. Number 15, detailed magic systems. I'm really not much of a fantasy reader, so it's kind of hard for me to judge. I think I would be out. And I'm judging this on how I like stories, but let's say time travel. When you read a book like The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, H.G. Wells doesn't really go into the nuts and bolts about how time travel works. That I am definitely in on. But when you get into books like Stephen King's 11/23/63, he goes really into detail about how time travel would work. And let's just say Stephen King in that novel made time travel utterly ludicrous and impossible to believe in, where I could believe in H.G. Wells' vision or version of a time machine. So I think, based on my judgment on time travel books, I would be out on detailed magic systems. Number 16, classic fantasy races. I guess I'm out. I'm really not a fantasy reader. I'm guessing this is referring to all the races found in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, a book that I have not finished reading. But I don't understand why another author would want to pull in those races from another book, another author's creation, into their own. Again, I don't really have enough detail to talk about this because I'm not a fantasy reader, but I'm going to say I'm out on classic fantasy races. Number 17, unreliable narrators. Oh, hell yeah, I'm in on unreliable narrators. I love reading a story narrated by someone the reader really cannot or should not be trusting. Let's just say Humbert Humbert from Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, one of the best unreliable narrators in literature. He's absolutely detestable, but he's also elegant and seductive. You know he's an evil man, but somehow you can see how he can win people over. I just love the unreliable narrator. Number 18, evil protagonists. I'm definitely in. I like a wicked, naughty, evil protagonist. I like crime novels where the narrator and characters are just not good people. They're great. I'm in on evil protagonists. Number 19, The Chosen One. I think this is one of the dumbest and most ludicrous tropes in fantasy literature, or even maybe some science fiction literature, that somehow someone is chosen for a destiny, and only this person can fulfill this destiny. Of course, depending on the story, it will be this or that, but maybe there's a good chosen one. Some story out there where some prophet in the past was smoking the equivalent of something good, made some prophecies, proclaimed that this chosen one would come. And then the story takes place much later after that prophet is done, and they think they found the chosen one. But it turns out that prophet was just smoking drugs. There is no chosen one. It's all make-believe. No one is chosen by destiny. So I'm out on the chosen one. Number 20, when the protagonist dies. I'm in. I don't mind it when a protagonist dies if it fits the story and is relevant and makes sense within the context. Killing off characters just to kill them off is bad writing, but generally speaking, I'm in when the protagonist dies. Number 21, really long chapters. I'm in tentatively. It depends on the book. It depends on the story. Sometimes some stories require longer chapters. Other stories require shorter chapters. But if it's the right story, then I'm definitely in on longer chapters. 22, French flaps. I'm in, at least tentatively. I think it's kind of neat when paperbacks have these flaps. It just adds a little bit of elegance to your paperback. So I'm in. 23, deckled edges. That's where your edge of your paperback is not cut evenly or smoothly. I kind of like it. Again, like French flaps, I think it adds a little bit of elegance to the book. So I'm in. 24, signed copies by the author. I'm definitely in. I used to be more in than I am now. I used to live closer to Washington, D.C. around 20 years ago, and they had lots of author signing events in Washington, D.C., and I could go to them. When I lived on the West Coast for about 17 years, I lived near enough to Seattle to go to a lot of great events, and Seattle had lots of good signing events too. Now that I live out basically near the sticks of Virginia, signing events don't really happen that often down here. And I'm really tired of driving to the big city, which would be DC, about an hour and a half. So I'm not really willing to go get my book signed. But in the past, look at this. I have a signed copy of Günter Grass's The Dog Years. I have a signed copy of Mario Vargas Llosa in his In Praise of the Stepmother. I have a signed copy of William T. Vollmann's book, The Ice Shirt. William T. Vollmann is one of my favorite living authors. I even have a signed copy of Dan Simmons in The Terror. Now, those are not all of my signed books. Those are just some of the highlights. I kind of wish that I lived nearer to where authors signed books, because I would go to those events more often than I do now. But signed books, yeah, I'm in. 25. Dog-earing pages. I'm out. Definitely out. I think dog-earing pages is a disrespect to the physical book. You should try to keep books as pristine as possible. It's not always possible not to mar up your book a little bit while reading, but dog-earing pages, just use a bloody bookmark or any kind of piece of paper. I'm out on dog-earing pages. 26. Chapter titles instead of numbers. I'm in, at least tentatively. It really depends on the book. It is the author's choice. Some books are improved with chapter titles instead of numbers, because it gives you a little bit of detail about what may be coming up in the chapter. But with numbers, do you use Arabic numbers or do you use Roman numbers? Again, that could be the author's choice, or it could be the publisher's choice. You really don't know when it's just numbers, but I'm in on chapter titles instead of numbers. 27. Tag others. I'm not going to tag anyone specifically for this video. If you have gotten to the end of this video, you're still watching, I encourage you to make your own version of this tag, even if you did it long ago, because aren't you curious? Are your answers going to be the same when you did it the first time or the second time? Because you are stepping into this river, this tag, twice. Are you the same person? Are the answers the same? Again, I have not revisited my first video. I guess I should do that now and see what the river was like. Was it the same? Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.